Let me ask you something real. Have you ever gone silent on a man and nothing happened? No text, no call, no chase, just silence met with more silence. It's the worst feeling, pulling back your energy, expecting him to notice your absence, and instead feeling like you disappeared into thin air. But here's the truth. No one is telling you silence alone isn't the power move. It's what you do after the silence that leaves a mark. Today, I'm about to give you the secret that flips everything most women believe, that silence is enough to make a man miss them, and it can be powerful, but only if it's used the right way. See, silence without strategy is just distance. Silence with intention, that's unforgettable. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, pulling back, not texting first, not begging for attention, but he still doesn't seem to care, you're likely making a silent mistake that's costing you your emotional power. In this video, I'm not just talking about going silent, I'm revealing the one move you need to pair with silence to instantly shift the dynamic, wake him up emotionally, and make him feel your absence in his chest, not just in his phone. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding how masculine energy responds to absence and pressure, and how to make him realize what he had before it's too late. Let's start by unpacking why your silence isn't working and what to do instead that will change everything. When a woman goes silent, something powerful happens, not just on the surface, but deep in a man's subconscious. The human brain is wired to seek patterns and predict outcomes in relationships when a man is used to a woman always being available, replying quickly, initiating contact. They're showing care that behavior becomes expected. It's predictable. And what's predictable is taken for granted. But when you go silent, you disrupt the pattern. His brain doesn't know what's happening, and that uncertainty triggers what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. It's the discomfort we feel when reality doesn't match what we've come to expect. He starts asking, why did she pull back? Did I do something? Is she losing interest? Is she talking to someone else? That mental spiral creates emotional pressure, and pressure creates interest. Most men don't truly feel the depth of a woman's presence until it's gone. Silence forces him to sit with his own thoughts without your energy filling in the gap. That's when reflection begins. That's when he starts replaying conversations, noticing your absence and questioning his role and losing your attention. You become a mystery. Again, a mystery is magnetism going silent. Also repositions your value. Instead of chasing him or trying to prove your worth, you're demonstrating it by stepping back. You're showing that your energy is earned, not handed out. And men are biologically wired to pursue what they feel could be lost. This isn't manipulation, it's nature. People value what feels scared. Constant availability sends the message that you need him. Silence says, I'm good either way. And that is power. Silence works not because it's loud, but because it creates space. Space for him to feel, space for him to realize, space for the emotional gap to grow wide enough that he can no longer ignore it. In a world where everyone is talking, texting, posting, silence cuts through like a signal flare. It's rare, it's unexpected, and it demands attention. If you've ever doubted whether pulling back would make a difference, you're about to see why it's often the only thing that does. Let's go deeper into when and how to do it right and avoid the trap most women fall into. Now, timing is everything when it comes to pulling back. Go too early and it feels like a game. Go too late and you've already taught him how to live without you. The right time to go silent isn't random. It's when you start feeling like you're the only one showing up. It's that moment when you realize your conversations feel one-sided, when he stops putting in effort, when he's replying hours later, but still watching your stories when you feel a subtle shift in the energy, like you've become an option instead of a priority. That's your cue, because energy never lies. If you find yourself wondering, should I say something first, or maybe he's just busy, that's the exact moment to stop overthinking and start observing. Pulling back is not about punishing him. It's about protecting your energy when it's no longer being matched. It's not about getting a reaction. It's about getting clarity. And when you pull back at the right time, you create space not only for him to feel your absence, but for you to see things for what they are. Most women wait until they're burned out to go silent. They give chance after chance, over-communicate, over-exclaim, hoping he'll get it. But here's the truth. Once you have to beg for basic effort, you're already giving too much. Pulling back should be your response to a pattern of emotional laziness, not the last resort after being emotionally drained. The right time is also when you notice that your self-respect is being quietly compromised, when you catch yourself shrinking to stay likable, tolerating breadcrumbs, or convincing yourself that at least he's still here. That's when silence becomes your reset button, not just for him, for you. And when you do it right, without warning, without drama, just a graceful shift in your availability, it lands differently. He notices. He might not say anything right away, but internally, the dynamic changes. Silence done at the right time speaks volume. It forces him to wonder where your energy went, why you're no longer pouring into him. And most importantly, whether he lost access to something valuable, pulling back isn't about ghosting. It's about reclaiming your emotional bandwidth when it's being misused or ignored. It's about moving with quiet power instead of loud desperation. It's the choice to respond with distance rather than react with emotion. And when it's timed right, it resets the emotional scales. Either he steps up or fades away. But either way, you win, because silence protects your dignity while revealing his intentions. So if you've been asking yourself, is it time? It probably is. Let your absence be the moment he realizes your value. Now, let's look at the biggest mistake women make once they've gone silent and how to avoid it completely. So you've gone silent. You've pulled back your energy, you've stopped reaching out, and for a moment you feel empowered, like you finally took control of the situation, but then nothing happens. Days go by, he doesn't chase, he doesn't check in, maybe he even seems fine without you. That silence you thought would draw him closer now feels like rejection. That's where most women fall into the biggest trap, breaking the silence too soon. This is the mistake. They go silent physically, but not emotionally. They stop texting, but inside, they're still anxiously waiting for a response. And when the silence feels uncomfortable, they panic and break it, often with a casual just checking in message. Or worse, a long emotional text explaining how they feel the moment you break the silence first, especially after pulling back. You undo everything you teach him, that your silence has a deadline, that even when you walk away, he doesn't actually have to come after you. Because you'll eventually return on your own. That's not power. That's a loop. And once he sees the pattern, he stops valuing your absence because he knows it's temporary. The biggest mistake is not understanding that silence only works when it's backed by certainty, not fear. You have to go silent without a countdown in your head, no imaginary 3 days and then I'll reach out rule, no strategy rooted in panic. True silence comes from stillness, not tension. It's the difference between withdrawing to punish and withdrawing to protect. Here's the hard truth. If your silence is a test, you're failing, because tests are meant to be graded. And if you're waiting for his response like a result, it's still giving away your power. Silence isn't about the outcome. It's about the shift in energy. It's not supposed to get you something instant. It's supposed to show you who's willing to step forward when you stop making all the effort. Another common mistake, using silence like a weapon, posting cryptic quotes, showing off on social media to spark jealousy, or announcing your pullback through stories. That's not silent, that's noise disguised as detachment. Real silence is when you don't need to be seen to feel strong. You don't need to prove you're fine because you actually are. The moment you stop needing validation is the moment silence begins to do its real work. When you can sit in the quiet without fidgeting for control, you become magnetic, because emotional maturity is rare, and men recognize when a woman chooses herself without needing to make it a performance. So if you've already gone silent, stay still. Don't rush the result. Don't sabotage the power you just claimed. Let the silence do its job, and let him feel what it's like to lose access to your presence without explanation. Now that you know what not to do, let's talk about what to do while you're silent. Because this next move, it changes everything. So you've pulled back, you've gone quiet, the energy shift has started. But now what do you actually do during the silence? Because here's the truth. The most powerful part of going silent isn't the silence itself, it's what you build in that space. Most women treat silence like a waiting room, sitting still, checking their phones, watching the clock, hoping he reaches out first. That's not silence. That's pause, and pause isn't growth. The real game changer, using the silence as a transformation period. While you're silent, you refocus on yourself, not as a distraction, but as a re-entering. You shift the emotional focus from him to you. This is the time to ask yourself, what was I giving that wasn't being reciprocated? Why was I overextending? What parts of me were trying to earn love instead of receive it naturally? These questions are uncomfortable, but they lead you back to your power. During this silence, get intentional, reinvest your energy, go back to the version of you that existed before you started bending for someone else. Not to erase the relationship, but to remember that you were whole before it. Work on your glow. Mentally, emotionally, physically, reconnect with friends, start journaling again, go to the gym, not to get revenge, but to feel strong, learn something new, clean your space, reorganize your mind. This isn't just self-care, it's identity care. When you reconnect with who you are outside of the relationship dynamic, you stop needing a man's response to feel validate. And here's the twist. The more you focus on yourself during silence, the more magnetic you become without even trying. He feels the shift even if you're not posting or reaching out. Energy doesn't lie. A woman who's at peace with herself feels different. She radiates something you can't fake. Silence is when your emotional frequency changes. And when it does, it sends a silent message. I no longer orbit around your inconsistency. That's power, because a man will feel when your energy is detached, even if your words never said it. Another key move during silence. Don't just wait. Evaluate. Look at the relationship dynamic clearly. Was it nourishing or draining? Was his attention consistent or conditioned? Use this quiet period, not just to heal, but to decide. Does he even deserve access to me again? Because when and if he comes back, you won't just be reacting, you'll be choosing from a grounded place. That's the difference between silence rooted in fear and silence rooted in self-worth. One hopes he comes back. The other knows her life moves forward with or without him. The silence becomes powerful when it's not about getting him to chase, but about finally chasing yourself again. And that shift, it's the beginning of everything. Now let's talk about the power move you can make after the silence. The one thing that makes him feel your absence on a whole new level. So now you're silent. You've pulled your energy back. You've refocused on yourself. But you're wondering, is there one thing you can do that takes this to the next level, that makes him really feel, not just notice it in passing, but feel your absence like a void he can't fill there is. And it's not about what you say, it's about what you become. The ultimate power move is living like you're no longer emotionally available to him. And meaning it's when your energy isn't just distant, it's redirected, not in a performative way, not to make him jealous, but because you've mentally and emotionally exited the role you once played in his life. Here's what that looks like. You're no longer watching his stories. You're not checking when he was last online. You've stopped tracking patterns or reading into his silence. You've replaced curiosity about him with curiosity about you, your goals, your growth, your future. You've removed him from the center of your thoughts. This is what flips the emotional script, because when he finally does reach out, and he probably will, he won't be greeted by the same emotional version of you. He won't find the woman who was waiting, wondering, hoping. He'll find someone new, someone grounded, someone whose peace no longer depends on his presence. That's the power move. You stop being emotionally predictable. Predictability is what kills emotional urgency. When a man knows that after a few days or a weak apology, you'll be right back where he left you, there's no reason for him to change. But when your absence comes with evidence, not just distance, but growth, detachment, elevation, he starts to feel what he lost. It's not just your silence he feels, it's the shift in who you are. The woman who once made space for him now makes space for herself. The energy that once pursued him now builds something bigger. That transformation, that's what makes him question everything, not because you asked him to, but because your evolution forced him to. And here's where it gets even more real. This power move isn't for him, it's for you. Because when you reclaim your time, your focus, your emotional power, you stop needing closure. You stop needing a reaction. You realize that what you thought you wanted from him, attention, affection, a message, pales in comparison to how powerful it feels to choose yourself without hesitation. So yes, silence is strong. That silence paired with personal evolution, that's unforgettable. Let him feel not just the quiet, but the shift. Let him realize that while he hesitated, you elevated. And if he comes back, he's going to have to meet a whole new standard. Let's dive into what happens next. How to trigger his deepest fear. Losing you for good, triggering a man's fear of losing you, isn't about playing mind games or creating drama. It's about tapping into a very real primal instinct. The fear of losing something valuable and irreplaceable. When a man senses that you're truly not going to wait around forever, that your presence isn't guaranteed, that's when the fear starts to settle in, and it changes everything. Most women try to trigger this fear by begging, pushing, or making ultimatums, and it backfires. Fear born from desperation is weak, easy to dismiss. Instead, the kind of fear that sparks genuine pursuit comes from authenticity, from being emotionally independent and showing that you're willing to walk away without hesitation. The key is to become a person he can't take for granted. When you stop accommodating his inconsistent attention, you force him to reckon with the reality that your time and energy are precious resources, not endless freebies. This shift from availability to scarcity isn't about scarcity as a tactic, it's scarcity as a reflection of self-respect. Men are wired to value what they believe might be lost, and your withdrawal triggers that awareness, but the fear only takes root when you show, through your actions, that you're serious about your boundaries. It's not enough to say, I'm done. If you don't change, you must live it. That means no last-minute messages, no falling back into old patterns, no giving second chances just because you miss him. Fear grows when absence is coupled with growth. When he sees glimpses, whether through social media, mutual friends, or casual mentions that you're thriving without him, it amplifies his anxiety. You're no longer just a comfortable presence. You become a reminder of what he's losing, a vibrant, confident woman who's moving forward. Another powerful way to spark his fear is by being unavailable. In subtle ways beyond just silence, say yes to plans with friends, pursue your goals passionately, and share your wins unapologetically when your life feels full and rich without him. It creates a silent pressure. The message is clear. If you want in, you have to show up fully or risk being left behind. It's also crucial to avoid desperation disguised as reconciliation. If he senses you're terrified of losing him, that fear triggers a kind of relief instead of urgency. But when your detachment is calm and unsettles him, it forces him to confront the truth that the relationship depends on his effort, not yours. Ultimately, triggering his fear of losing you means becoming someone whose presence is a gift, not a given. It means showing that your love and attention are valuable commodities, earned by respect and consistency. And when he realizes he might lose access to that, the fear isn't about controlling him. It's about creating a genuine shift in his desire to keep you close. This fear, born from your quiet strength and clear boundaries, can awaken the part of him that's being complacent. It makes him question his actions and motivates him to prove he deserves your presence. And that's where true change begins. Next, we'll explore a real-life example to illustrate when this strategy works and when it might backfire, so you can use it wisely. Let's bring everything we've talked about into real life, because theory is one thing, but seeing how it plays out in actual relationships is what makes all the difference. Going silent, pulling back, triggering his fear of losing you. These strategies are powerful, but they don't work in every situation or with every man. Knowing when they work and when they backfire can save you heartache and help you use your energy wisely. Imagine this. Sarah has been texting and calling her boyfriend non-stop, trying to get his attention and affection. She finally hits her limit and decides to pull back. She stops initiating contact, focuses on herself, and lets him wonder what's going on. A few days later, he reaches out asking if everything is okay. This is a classic example of silence working because Sarah timed it well. She used her absence to create emotional distance, forcing him to notice what he might lose. He felt the gap she left and wanted to fill it. That's the kind of response silence is designed to create. But let's flip the script. Imagine Sarah pulls back too early, right after a fight where emotions are raw and unresolved. She goes silent, hoping he'll chase. But instead, he interprets her silence as anger or punishment rather than chasing. He withdraws and the distance grows. Here, silence backfires because the timing and context weren't right. The message he receives isn't "I'm valuable and independent, but I'm upset and unavailable," which can push him further away rather than pull him in. Another scenario, Sarah goes silent but internally feels desperate. She checks his social media, hopes he'll text, and even considers breaking her silence just this once. This energy leaks through her behavior or online presence, and he senses it. He doesn't feel challenged. He feels relieved. So when Sarah finally reaches out, the emotional power she was trying to build evaporates. The silence fails because it wasn't authentic. It was anxiety disguised as strategy. On the flip side, silence works best when combined with genuine growth and self-care. Sarah starts focusing on her passions, reconnects with friends, and builds a life that excites her. This authentic shift changes her energy and makes her magnetic, not manipulative. Her silence is not a test, but a boundary, and that clarity sends a strong message. She's emotionally available, but not at his convenience. In relationships, timing, intention, and authenticity are everything. Silence can be a tool of empowerment or a source of confusion. When used wisely, it creates healthy space for both partners to reflect and grow. When misused, it breeds resentment, misunderstanding, and more distance. The key is to stay honest with yourself about your reasons for going silent. Are you seeking control, trying to punish, or protecting your peace? Are you ready to stand firm in your boundaries regardless of his response? If you can answer yes with confidence, silence becomes a powerful ally. If not, it's better to communicate openly or take time to heal before trying this strategy. Remember, the goal is never to play games. It's to create respect, clarity, and a relationship dynamic where your value is recognized. Next, we'll wrap up with a quick summary of the key takeaways so you can use silence with confidence and power, staying in control and magnetic in your relationships. Is it about tricks or manipulation? It's about mastering your own energy and owning your worth. When you truly understand the power you hold, everything shifts. You're no longer chasing validation or approval because you already have it within yourself. One of the most important things to remember is that control isn't about control over someone else. It's about control over your own emotions and actions. When you're calm, collected, and grounded, you naturally attract respect and attention. That calm confidence is magnetic because it shows you're secure in who you are and what you deserve. Magnetism comes from being authentic and unapologetically yourself. Don't shrink to fit someone else's expectations or hide your true feelings to keep the peace. Instead, embrace your strengths, your quirks, and your boundaries. When you communicate your needs clearly and stand firm in your standards, you set the tone for how you expect to be treated. Another key to staying magnetic is to keep your life full and exciting outside of the relationship. Pursue your passions, spend time with friends, and invest in personal growth. A woman with a vibrant, fulfilling life naturally draws people in because she radiates energy and joy. When your happiness doesn't depend on someone else, you're irresistible. Remember, it's not about being cold or distant. It's about being selective and intentional. You choose who gets your time and energy. That choice is a form of respect for yourself, and it teaches others to value you the same way. Also, don't forget the power of patience. Change doesn't happen overnight, and the right kind of attention is earned, not demanded. Stay consistent in your self-respect and don't settle for less than you deserve. Your energy is your currency, and spending it wisely will pay off in ways you can't imagine. Finally, trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Being in control means listening to your inner voice and acting accordingly. You're the captain of your ship. Steer it where you feel safe, valued, and loved. Keep these principles close, and you'll not only stay in control, but become someone who naturally commands respect and attraction. Your power isn't about making someone else change. It's about becoming the woman who inspires change simply by being herself.